Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to absolutely lambaste the Bears and take a shit all over Ryan Pace. And I don't want to thank our sponsor because I want to jump right into the anger that I have for this situation. And I'm sure you agree, Alex.
As we speak, Sean Hotman is getting on his stilts and getting ready to just vomit all over the front lawn of Virginia McCaskey.
I've got those old school flapper wings that people tried to learn how to fly with, so I could fly over her house and drop poop bombs.
Blah, blah.
So we had the press conference. If we have gone through this ad nauseum, the press conference at the end of the season where chicken shit George McCaskey and bad at his job Ted Phillips were so scared of having to hire another general manager and go through that search again that they're not qualified for. They decided to give another chance to Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, which was bad enough because the general consensus between, amongst the fans and the sports writers was this is a tipping point for this organization. If you do things right, you can salvage things. If you do them wrong, you are setting this franchise back really far. And you're trusting Ryan Pace to be the Sherpa for your whole organization. And we are seeing how bad that is.
Yeah, no doubt. I think after that press conference, everybody was pissed. We were all pissed because it was awful. It was one of the worst press conferences I have ever heard in this city. And there's been a number of bad ones. That was one of the worst. You knew right then and there that something was going to go down and it wasn't going to be pretty. It wasn't going to be ideal. It wasn't what we were going to like. And here we are in an even worse situation than we were before. We are in a situation where people are saying the business at Halas Hall is terrible. We are at a point where the players are pissed off and they are not shy away from expressing it. I've seen what they're posting on social media. Guys like Eddie Jackson, I think, he's not with the team anymore. Taylor Gabriel's been tweeting, and I think Lance Briggs even posted a facepalm emoji. So former and current Bears are rolling their eyes and cannot believe what's going on.
Yeah, it's Cordero Patterson, Eddie Jackson, Lance Briggs, who else? There's a couple of other ones that have all they can't believe what's happening, and I can't believe it either.
You want to sit there and talk about your culture and how great your culture is? Well, you're killing it. One of the good things you had, it is now being killed. It is now being manhandled. You can talk about how great your culture has been, but the way things are being run right now, it's killing it. I mean,
have you ever seen that South Park episode where they go to a party and everyone's so full of themselves, they just bend over and they fart and then they sniff their own butts to smell their farts? That's what I picture happening at Halas Hall. It's Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are like we can make any quarterback other than Mitch Trubisky great. It's just all we need is that quarterback and things will be good. It is mind melting what dumbosity is going on at that organization.
Well, and the other thing too is we understand that the cap is going down and that a lot of teams are in bad cap positions because of that. But you look at the investments. How much money are you paying to Robert Quinn? How much money are you paying Nick Foles? How much did you just give Andy Dalton? What, $10 million?
You have $17 million tied up between Nick Foles and Andy Dalton. So I back up a minute here. So we so stupidly believed that maybe, just maybe, we could get Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. And they were like, surprise, it's Andy Dalton.
Here's, if we're just going to talk about that, here's my take on that. Getting Russell Wilson was next to the impossible. And now they're still saying that the hopes are not dead, but, I don't see anything changing, frankly. There's rumors on how, they're just trying to build up the offense now with all these changes to bring Russell Wilson here. I don't believe that one bit. Not yet, at least.
It's not Russell Wilson's decision. That's the problem.
No,
it is the Seahawks' decision. So you can keep building things up to impress Russell Wilson, but guess what?
It doesn't matter.
If Seattle keeps saying, no, we're not going to trade him, then who cares? He could be like, ooh, but, the organization is saying no.
Yeah, and exactly. And, that's where I'm going with one of these points is, look, if Seattle's not going to trade him, Seattle's not going to trade him. But here's the problem. The two main things that are the problem with this situation. One is that you created this situation of desperation by missing on all the other quarterbacks. You signed Mike Glennon. That was an epic disaster. Your big pick, your career-defining pick with the Bears was Mitch Trubisky. That didn't work out. You traded for Nick Foles and took on a lot of money.
I'm going to read you all of the quarterbacks that Ryan Pace has brought in since he.
Oh God, you are just going all out here. Oh boy, I think I got to cover my ears.
Mike Glennon, Mitch Trubisky, Tyler Bray, Chase Daniel, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton. Could you find a worse list? And the combined money he has paid these quarterbacks. Chase Daniel was $5 million a year. Nick Foles is $7 million a year. Andy Dalton is $10 million a year. You traded up to get Mitch Trubisky, and you paid him the second overall pick money. And Mike Glennon, you gave him a stupid deal. So
yeah,
you paid a lot of money. It's not like, we just got those guys as like a 1 year backup borderline starter money to bridge. No, these were solution quarterbacks for you.
Yeah, I mean, they were. I mean, the last few attempts have been out of desperation. And that's the one problem. That's one of the big problems. The other big problem is that there's no option that's going to put you over the top realistically. I mean, obviously the dream is to trade for Russell Wilson, but you can't do that. There are other options out there that I think are better than washed up Andy Dalton. Because I'm going to say this really quick about Andy Dalton. The guy's had a good career. There's no question about that. But he hasn't been a Pro Bowl level talent since 2016. How many years ago was that?
5. Half a decade. Half a decade.
Half a decade. I mean, if we were talking 2015 Andy Dalton, you're saying, okay, that's a pretty decent name. I mean, he's multiple Pro Bowls, multiple 4,000 plus yards. He's had a season of over 30 touchdown passes, but he hasn't been that guy in God knows how long. He hasn't. I mean, he struggled mightily last year in Dallas with a with a much better line than the Bears have. And, I think with a better offensive scheme than what the Bears, I know a better offensive scheme than the Bears have. So why do we think that a guy who was good is going to suddenly rejuvenate here? That's what Ryan Pace has been trying to do since Mitch Trubisky hasn't worked out. He did the same thing with Nick Foles. He tried to capture the magic of 2013 and 2017. It didn't work. Now he's trying to capture the magic of 2011 through 2016. And, neither guy is very mobile or super athletic. And if you don't have that many weapons around him, it's much harder to win with this version of Andy Dalton versus the one that's gone.
So here's the thing, is he acts like he has an organization, a winning organization with a winning coach, with a strong program where they can plug in any quarterback,
The guru.
and turn them around. But they don't have that. Matt Nagy is a bumbling idiot. He is an idiot. Should not be a head coach in this league. He shouldn't be an offensive coordinator.
I picture your veins pulsing out of your forehead right now.
And so you don't. You have a loser organization full of losers, and you have a bad head coach. Sure, he might motivate people, but he can't put a good product on that field. He has not had he's an offensive guru that when they handed him the play calling is in that playoffs, the last playoff he was in, we saw what he was. That wasn't an anomaly. That was who he was. And he comes to the Bears, and we have had shit offense after shit offense after shit offense every year. So, no, we don't. You can't plug in a guy. And I know what those idiots are thinking. They're like, you know what? Look what happened with the Chiefs. They brought in Alex Smith, and they were able to do something pretty good and held his own until they could get Patrick Mahomes. And because Ryan Pace is a big believer in taking a path that's already been taken. And I think Matt Nagy is too. They're like, well, this is what happened in Kansas City, or this is what happened in New Orleans. We need to have our Drew Brees, or we need to have our Patrick. Like, no, Andy Dalton is not Alex Smith. Andy Dalton is not Alex Smith. This is a completely different situation. And I don't mean to shit all over Andy Dalton because he didn't do anything wrong.
No, he didn't. And frankly, I feel kind of bad for him.
I feel totally bad for him. And, somebody tweeted out there like, can somebody just say something nice about this guy that didn't do anything wrong? And I was like, well, his hair is going to pop next to those uniforms.
Oh, it's glorious. The way you compare his hair to like the orange scheme of the Bears. Oh, it's a perfect match.
Yeah. So
that's the one fit here.
Yeah. And I don't want to be accused of shitting all over Andy Dalton. I have no issues. Like, I think he's not a good quarterback at where he is in this point in his life, but it's not his fault that the Bears are a loser organization full of losers. That's just the reality, and he took advantage. The Dallas Cowboys paid him $3 million last year. The Bears bumped that up to 10. Why? I don't know.
Ridiculous. Were they really afraid that someone was going to scoop in their guy? Were they really afraid there was going to be a big freaking competition to get Andy Dalton in 2021?
I don't know what the thing is all of the moves that the Bears are making right now, what is the plan? I don't see a plan. I don't either. I don't see a plan. It just seems like moves. And here's the part that really scares me is all of the moves that have been made so far. Do they scream a GM and a head coach that are desperate? I don't think so. I don't think so. It seems to me that these are a general manager and a head coach that feel very secure in their jobs, which if you think back to the press conference, is Ted Phillips and George McCaskey refuse to acknowledge how much time that those two have left on their contracts.
Yep.
I guarantee that they have extensions. Guarantee it.
I think they do too.
And
I think they do too.
Because George McCaskey is so incompetent at understanding football that he's so scared to hire a general manager. He's so desperately scared. And Ryan Pace is a snake oil salesman and has him duped into believing that he knows what he's doing.
Well, if you look at the moves and you look at where, you bring in a bridge type quarterback. Now the Kyle Fuller move has not been cut officially, but it seems like they're planning to move on from him, which, we're obviously going to get to. That's a whole other thing. But, if they continue to move or trade or release or whatever, some of these key guys, it almost screams to you rebuild. And if that screams to you rebuild, then that means that George McCaskey is entrusting this regime to rebuild again.
Yeah, you don't let a GM tear it down for another GM to rebuild.
No, you don't.
You give the new GM the keys to tear it down and rebuild, because there's a right way to rebuild, and then there's the Ryan Pace way to rebuild, which is bind yourself up in a cap situation, piss all the players off, and talk like you're a Muppet.
What's really frustrating about all this too is that that the Bears are in like one of the worst possible positions. They had a team that went 8-8 and made the 7th seed of the playoffs. They weren't closer to a high draft pick, nor were they closer to a legit Super Bowl chance. They've been stuck right in the middle. So basically, you're just taking this big pot of whatever you have, and you're just stirring it, and you are flinging some of it out of the pot and throwing in new stuff and seeing what happens. There's no tearing down yet that could change, full tear down, I mean, and there's no legitimate moves that make you better. It's very early in the offseason right now, and things can change on draft night. There's a long way to go in this offseason, but right now this all comes back to what you just said. I don't see a plan here. I don't. At least when Ryan Pace first came in, the plan was very clear to rebuild. It was to filter out the old and bring in the new. We saw that plan. Regardless of how well it worked or not, there was a plan there. Right now, we don't know what this plan is, and we're very confused. Allen Robinson just picked up his franchise tag right after it was announced that the Bears planned on officially releasing Kyle Fuller, which as of right now, while we're recording, has not been made official yet. So, there's just so much that isn't clear here, so much confusion. And honestly, if you're other players looking around, why would you want to even consider playing here if the one good asset they have, which is culture, is now being just tossed away like a bag of garbage?
Here's the thing too, is remember during the season when the Bears won those handful of games in a row against dog shit teams, and people were like, I'm all riled up, Bears are winning. And I was like, are these good wins? Are these good wins? Are we hurting ourselves? Sure, it was nice to say that we made the playoffs, but if you go back and look, like if we wouldn't have stolen that game against Tampa Bay, if we wouldn't have eked out the game against the Vikings, all right, or the Lions, either one of those, if we wouldn't have eked those games out, the Bears are drafting 11th.
Those aren't the only game. Look at the Falcons game too. Look at the Giants game.
If they would have lost 2 more games, and they could have easily lost 2 more games, the Bears draft 11th. Don't you think that's a much better place right now to rebuild this team than the 20th pick?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It puts you into play where you could go get one of those legitimate quarterbacks like Trey Lance. You are in the realm of possibility. Right now, you are not. And, just in realism here. So, the rumor is that the Bears offered 3 first-rounders, a third-rounder, and 2 starters for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is 32 years old. When you get another first-round pick, that puts him as a 35-year-old quarterback. So, sure, you might get Russell Wilson, but you're trading away 2 starters, and I'm going to guess it was Akeem Hicks and Kyle Fuller. I have a very strong suspicion. But you are weakening your defense. You are tying up money in the quarterback position. And, listen, like, Russell Wilson is a great quarterback, but you're going to, you are not going to be able to build around him with a first round pick until he's at the end of his career. Okay. And that's the plan that you're going with is you're going to be basically Seattle. Not a good offensive line, couple good skill positions, good quarterback, no defense, and trying to win football games. And they have a better head coach and a better GM. Like, that's how you're not going to win that way. That's why I liked the Deshaun Watson trade better, because he's like 25. He's still in his 20s by the time that you are starting to reap back to getting draft picks again. That's what I liked about that. And here's the thing with the Bears is right now they're looking like they're building their team around offense. They're cutting defensive players. They're not re-signing defensive players, and they're trying to pad that offense. So they're paying a lot of money to Allen Robinson. They offered, sounding like the highest contract so far, to Kenny Golladay. They're going with Andy Dalton as their starting quarterback. And all 3 of those guys are 1-year contracts. So where are they next year? Without Kenny Golladay. And that's assuming he signs with the Bears, which is not a guarantee by any stretch.
It's looking like the Giants are talking to him right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going there. We'll see. I don't know, but I'm not really counting on Kenny Golladay. Now, here's my question. Are they serious about Kenny Golladay? Are they truly serious? Because you look at his value and you look at what they offered, and it's a little less on what they've, it's a little less what they've offered. So are they legit trying to bring in Kenny Golladay, or are they trying to make it look like they're trying to make a move to bring in Kenny Golladay?
Well, the thing is actually, like, you look at some of the moves, a lot of the skill positions are not being offered a lot. I think
that is true.
Juju Smith-Schuster signed for $8 million a year. And I think Golladay, he was offered like another $11 million or $10 million contract by somebody else.
It was like $10-11 million.
So that's,
you're talking about somebody else. No,
Golladay. No, the Bears offered him. It was between 11 and 12, and I think I read that he had another offer between 10 and 11 for 1 year, and I think that's kind of the way things are going to go. Is guys are going to take a little less money on a 1-year deal, and then when the cap jumps back up next year, then get that big contract.
That is a good point.
So, but the thing is you have Andy Dalton throwing to him. Like, what are you expecting? Like, what is your move there? Like, that's the thing that hurts. And
you heard about how they said, "Oh, you're going to be the starter," which I don't know how much stock you could really take into that even, but
here's my take about that is they told Mike Glennon the same thing is, like, I get the thing about trying to be deceptive so nobody knows what you're doing. I get that. It's kind of a cutthroat league. But why in the world are you lying to players? And what do you tell Nick Foles when you go, you know what? Hey, Andy Dalton, you're our starter. What do you tell Nick Foles then? Get the fuck out?
You are starter 2.0.
Like, and then if you go and draft somebody, if you don't draft somebody, you're a bungling idiot. And if you do draft somebody, then what do you tell Andy Dalton then? We lied to you.
Well, I think the excuse you can make there is we drafted somebody and he's going to sit behind you this year. That's the way I'd see it, but still.
I want to read a quote from Ryan Pace.
Does it say collaboration and everything's on the table?
It's from a couple of years ago. As we talked at the end of the season, I stressed the importance of the quarterback position and the importance of getting that right. How critical that position is for our long-term success. Obviously excited to add a quarterback of this this is after they drafted Trubisky. Obviously excited to add a quarterback of this caliber. The only chance you get to add a quarterbacks like this is when you're picking this high in the draft and taking advantage of it. As an organization, we had conviction on this quarterback and his special attributes, and we did what we did to get him. His potential to be a championship quarterback is all we focused on in this move. We feel we have the perfect environment for his development. I studied all the quarterbacks. His accuracy jumps out right away. His ability to process and see the whole field jumps out right away. He's very athletic. He can extend the play. And one trait you'll notice as quarterbacks are extending the play, the ability to move around and keep his eyes downfield, still looking for open targets instead of just tucking the ball and wanting to run. So very good on third down. Very good completions percentage with pressure in his face. Just a lot of traits he has that translate well to the NFL game. And then when he was asked after that about with Trubisky not scheduled to play next year and no third or fourth round picks, how important is your second round pick? It's going to be critical. We'll go over that tonight and tomorrow morning, and there's still a lot of good players on the board. The scouts are up there right now kind of working through all that, and that's on us. We'll find those players. Do you know who that player was?
Who was it?
Adam Shaheen. Just the level of stupidity. Like, okay, I get it. I'm not going to be a revisionist history, and the fact is that Mitch Trubisky was the highest rated quarterback coming out of that draft.
Yes.
But there was 3 quarterbacks that were high, and you traded up to get one. That was a big mistake. And I think, why wouldn't you trade down and get, more picks, knowing you could pick any of those 3 guys? The third one didn't go until the 12th pick. So you could have traded back instead of drafting third and trading up to second. You could have taken the third pick, traded down to 10, got a future number 1, kept all your picks, and still got one of those 3 guys. That was fallacy number 1. It's not like Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck, and one of those guys is just like, that's the guy. Like, no matter, like, it's not like when LeBron was in the draft and you were like, well, it's LeBron and then everybody else. No, there was people arguing that, these are all 3 good quarterbacks. I saw a lot of people with Deshaun Watson as number 1. I don't think I saw anybody of note that had Patrick Mahomes number 1, but I saw him in a few as number 2. So you had 3 quarterbacks that were in that same range. Why wouldn't you trade down and then pick up picks? That's where the stupidity comes from, and that's why he's fleeced at every moment.
You know what I did the day we signed Andy Dalton? I listened to some of the angry 670 The Score callers, which is always a very good time, a very good listen. But somebody said it absolutely perfectly. The Chicago Bears continue to be the suckers of the NFL.
It's true.
Like, seriously, they really are.
It's absolutely true. And then, here you go these moves that they're making right now. Every team makes hard decisions, but not every team pisses off the rest of their their locker room like this, which means you have a bad culture. So you moved on from Roy Robertson Harris, which I get. You know, he's an up-and-coming player. He did good. He was a role player, but I liked him. Same with Brent Urban. I can understand those. But then Kyle Fuller. Like, you, Pace, you were the one that kept kicking the can down the road with the signing bonus, and you kicked the can all the way to the last year of his contract. And so that's why he's $20 million. He wasn't making $20 million as his salary this year. It is what you owe him for kicking the can down the road. So the thing is, they asked him to take a huge pay cut. And he said no. And
why would he want to take a massive pay cut?
Now the thing is he's probably going to get in the free market in this with the lowered cap. He's probably going to get less than he would have otherwise. But it's just what leverage did you have? Everybody and their mother, you know, we had Brad Spielberger from Over the Cap on talking, and, you know, he was leading that charge. It's like, you extend him. You give Fuller an extension, and then they're
allergic to extending their key players, Sean.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear.
Kyle Fuller should be like a storybook for this organization. He was a homegrown talent, and he struggled a little bit. You got him to where you wanted him to be. You gave him a second contract, and you let him ride it out for his career as a Bear. He's beloved by Chicago Bears fans. And so you're going to cut him. You're not going to even trade him. He's a Pro Bowl level cornerback, and you can't trade him for anything because you're a bungling idiot. Everybody knows you're so stupid. Have you ever seen the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner?
I've only seen bits of it.
So in the beginning, he's the idiot general manager that everyone goes to fleece. And then there's a new GM that he fleeces. Ryan Pace is the idiot that everyone fleeces. Everyone knows, you know what? Sure, we would love to have Kyle Fuller, but you know what? If we wait, that idiot's just going to cut him. Ha ha ha. Then we'll sign him off the street.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the cut hasn't been made official as of right now, but, if they could somehow find a way to, if you got to get rid of him, you can't just cut him. When I saw the notification that they were planning to cut him yesterday, I almost punched a hole in the wall. You know what, Sean? It's so funny. When the Bears signed Andy Dalton, as terrible of a fit as it is, I wasn't mad because you know what? I expect this type of BS when it comes to quarterbacking. I was fully expecting it. I wasn't surprised. But then this happened, and I was, oh my God, my chest hurt. I was so angry. You have so many other guys making so much more money. I mean, not more than Kyle Fuller necessarily with the signing bonus and stuff, but you have other guys who are making money and are not producing like Kyle Fuller. We mentioned earlier, I think when Brad was on the show, we mentioned guys like Jimmy Graham. Sure, Jimmy Graham played well last year, but wouldn't you rather cut a guy like Jimmy Graham who, kind of did what he did, fill a role for a year and making a lot of money?
Is easy fat to trim. You go
exactly
$7 million right there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Cole Kmet is your guy going forward, he has his year of experience. He's learned behind a veteran, very good tight end in Jimmy Graham. So then now you cut Jimmy Graham and you let Cole Kmet take that number one spot. That seems pretty easy to me. But to find a cornerback like Kyle Fuller, you know how hard that is? I mean, he has been one of our best defensive assets for years now. And he's still in his prime years. Just to cut him?
Yep. And then they doubled down on that by telling Akeem Hicks that he can seek a trade. And then they signed Desmond Trufant. Desmond Trufant, when he's healthy, has had a good career, but the guy has injury history. So what? That's who you're getting to replace Kyle Fuller? And then, not only what's worse probably is the Andy Dalton, which I think you outbid yourself. I don't think anybody else was giving him $10 million.
No.
You signed Jermaine Ifedi to a deal that's potentially worth $5 million. For what?
Jermaine Ifedi. Jermaine Ifedi.
The guy is terrible. And why in the world did you give him a $5 million contract? There's going to be veteran offensive linemen that you can get that are solid for that kind of money. And the crazy part about it is, all right, the Bears have all kinds of cap trouble. We can't have anybody. We can't afford them. But then you look, and the Kansas City Chiefs have a $40 million quarterback, and they're finding ways to sign players to fill the holes.
Does that not show you just the absolute unbelievable gap there is between teams like the Bears and teams like the Kansas City Chiefs? A team that has, this generation's great star quarterback, a team that has been to back-to-back Super Bowls and 3 straight AFC championships. Look at the difference between the two organizations. The gap is massive. Massive. I mean, what Pat Mahomes is getting, record-breaking. And yet they are still finding ways to fit guys in. Star players, they're not cutting anybody. And, that's with Pat Mahomes making all that money. The Bears are paying washed-up Andy Dalton and washed-up Nick Foles.
It is unreal. The incompetence level is, you know what? If you're going to draft somebody, which how does signing Andy Dalton to a 1-year deal, how does that just screams, we're going to draft a quarterback in this draft, right? I mean, that has to, right? Or else then you're in the same spot next year. So, if you draft somebody now, because you got you eked those couple of wins out, is you're either going to get what's left of the quarterbacks that people are going for, or you're going to have to trade up in the first round. And the part that scares me is the Bears are going to probably offer a future first round pick to move up. And that pick is going to be a high pick because this team is going to suck next year. Yep. So they're going to be like, well, we've traded next year's first round pick to move up into the top 10. And then it's going to wind up being, a top 5 pick. And you're like, why? Why in the world are you so stupid? And this guy is going to keep his job.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a totally legitimate fear. It's a totally legitimate fear. And you know what? Another thing I want to say about the Andy Dalton situation is this. Let's say you didn't have a quarterback and you were working to fix that with a legitimate option. If the plan was to bring in Andy Dalton on a cheap $3-4 million deal to be your backup, fine. But that's not the situation we're in. You're bringing in Andy Dalton to try to patch things. I mean, you are taking a Band-Aid that has fallen on the ground into the mud and been stepped on a few times and using it to try to cover a pretty big flesh wound.
And just going back to Jermaine Ifedi for a minute, they signed him to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Kyle Long signed a 1-year, $1.5 million contract with the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Is number one, he had no interest in going back to the Bears because he hates this front office. And they didn't even talk to him because they probably know he hates them. Like, that's the thing. I believe it was Doug Buffone that said this is a loser organization that hires losers. And it's true. The ship is helmed by a family of people that don't know football from a hole in their ass. And they make stupid decisions on losers. I mean, remember the regime before John Fox is the two of those guys showed up looking like Mo Howard and Shemp Howard at the press conference. You know,
Why I oughta.
they were just incompetent idiots. And everyone and their mother looked at this and went, oh, God, what are we getting here? They hire consistently stupid, wrong people for the jobs. And it is such a boneheaded list of people that they have hired that how in the world can you look at that track record and be like, man, we're fuck ups? How do you not have self-awareness? George McCaskey has so little self-awareness that he has no idea how stupid he is. And
there's a lot of things that man does not get. And he continues to live in a fantasy world.
He claims he's a big fan. How in the world are you a big fan of this team and you watch this team and go, yeah, we're on the right path. I believe in us.
How do you sit there and claim that Packer Week is so important when you have won, 4 games against them since 2009?
It is absolutely. Can you imagine me being the owner of this team and watching them and being, yep, all aboard, doing great. Oh my God, you would have to pry me off of my hands off of Ryan Pace's throat from choking him to death. You would have Matt Nagy over there crying in the corner. You'd have Ted Phillips would have been launched to the moon already. You would have the janitor there with a pry bar trying to pry my hands off of his throat. And the whole time that my Marty Havlat crock pot would be bubbling over, spilling my meatball sauce. And I would just, I couldn't take it. I just couldn't deal. I couldn't put up with that level of incompetence. But the thing is, George McCaskey is so inept. That family should not own an organization. You have a jackpot there. Take the billions of dollars you will get. Sell the franchise. And I don't mean any disrespect by this and don't mean to speak so little of death, but Virginia McCaskey is 97 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Just reality. She does not have a lot of time left on this earth. And you're going to keep trotting this terrible franchise out there for her last days? That's what you're going to do? Seriously. I mean, and I can't really blame her much anymore. I don't think she really does as much with operations these days. No, but George, that's his mom. She watches the games. He can't go, right. You know what? That's my mom is the owner of this team, and I owe it to her to get a winning season and compete for a Super Bowl. And you're going to trot this garbage out there. You're going to trot Andy Dalton out there for her? Really?
Yeah. You know what I think it is, Sean? Frankly, I think at the end of the day, George McCaskey just looks at his profits, counts his dollar bills, and that's all that matters. And I think the rest is just fluff. He does not get a lot of things. Sean, I started a personal blog, Alex Pat Sports Chat. If you want to check it out, you can check it out on Facebook. You know what I wrote about last weekend? I wrote about how this fan base is slowly dying off. It is slowly dying off. Less people care about the Bears. People who used to care about the Bears don't care about the Bears anymore. The young generation in this city, more and more are saying, F this, I don't want to watch this. I'm going to go on NFL Red Zone. I'm going to watch Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to watch Drew Brees. Not anymore, obviously. I'm going to watch Tom Brady. I'm going to watch Russell Wilson. I want to watch Deshaun Watson. I don't want to watch this. I am telling you, this fan base is in danger. You may not realize it now. They may still have one of the bigger fan bases now, but year by year, minute by minute, this fan base shrinks. It shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. Sean, I live in the suburbs, okay? I live in the suburbs. I go around a lot, whether it's a local downtown, whether it's a mall, wherever. And I can't tell you how many times I walk around and I see people wearing Packers gear in Chicagoland area. There are times where You will go to a bar during Bears Packers in the city, and there are more Packers fans at the bar than Bears fans. I'm not saying that this is a Packers town now. I'm not saying that at all. But by God, it is shrinking, and the amount of fans of other teams in this town is growing.
It's true. And well, why wouldn't they? Why in the world, if you have a kid, why in the world would you want to indoctrinate them into this loser organization? I'm stuck here. As much as I would want to throw up my hands and go root for another team, I just can't. But it sucks every year. They throw us a bone, once or twice a decade. We made the playoffs. Okay, and we even made a Super Bowl since '85, but I don't think anybody really thought the Bears were going to win that, and they didn't. They lost. From after the opening kick, that game just really went downhill. And that's what we get. We get a lucky season, and it's never, it's one thing if we would have made it to the Super Bowl and lost, but we would have competed for, several years before and after. But we just didn't. Even that 85 team, that window was so small, it wasn't a dynasty. Neither one of us has had a Bears dynasty since we've been alive.
No, the last Bears dynasty is when my grandfather was a kid.
You see, the Patriots have had a dynasty. The 49ers have had a dynasty. You've had teams that have had a dynasty. And you don't even have to win all the Super Bowls.
The Cowboys.
Look at the Steelers. That is an organization that is always competing for a Super Bowl. Even when they have a down year, it's a down year. They're like the inverse Bears. The Bears every so often will throw in a winning season, and it's like the Steelers. It's every once in a while they'll throw in a bad season, and then they're just like, oh, we fixed the glitch, and now we're back. And even if they're not winning, they're competing. Even this year when they struggled for the first half of the season, it was, can anybody stop the Steelers?
Right. How many times do we say that about the Bears?
Yeah. And you know what is the thing is, you look at some of these moves and you're like, all right, like you're an idiot for making this move. And people are like, you wouldn't have said that about if Bill Belichick did this move. You know what? Because number one, if Bill Belichick did the move, it probably wouldn't have been an idiot move. And number two is Bill Belichick has built up so much benefit of the doubt.
You win 6 Super Bowls, man. I mean, come on.
The guy has how many titles did he win in a row? Division titles. How many Super Bowl rings does he have? He's got 6 in New England and however many else with, when he was an assistant with Parcells. Like, the man has been a winner. Ryan Pace has a losing record for his career. And his accomplishment is he has one winning season. One winning season in 7 years in this job.
Yeah.
It is infuriating.
3 playoff appearances since 2007.
Since 2007, it's 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And just like a small microcosm of it is we re-signed Pat O'Donnell. And that's just a small pebble in everything. But the thing is Pat O'Donnell a good punter? No, he's like an average punter. And even if you give him the minimum, the veteran minimum is like $1 million more a year than somebody that if you were to get an undrafted rookie or spend your 7th round pick on a rookie, that's like another $1 million you can put towards. Oh my goodness, I sneezed. Sorry about that. That's $1 million you could put towards this cap that you're having a problem with.
No, see, the problem is that you got to build up as much as possible so you could cut good players.
Yeah, it's, we're going to keep, old ass Jimmy Graham. We're going to sign terrible ass Jermaine Ifedi. You're going to pay mediocre ass Pat O'Donnell, and you're going to give $10 million to Andy Dalton. And And you're like, oh, we just don't have enough money to pay Kyle Fuller. I don't know how that happened. Is
Yeah.
this team, what they're trying to do is they're trying to rob Peter, which is the defense, to pay Paul, which is the offense. And they don't have a good head coach. And mark my words, Matt Nagy is going to take the play calling back to start the season.
It wouldn't surprise me.
And I'm not saying Bill Lazor lit everything up, but you at least had a functioning offense. You had less pre-snap penalties, less delay of games,
And you ran the
and
ball.
you ran the ball. So at least you could run the clock out, so you kept games close. But Matt Nagy's just out there is like, nobody knows what the play is. You have to call timeouts all the time because you can't get the play in. There's delays of game, and nobody knows what the system is. Even Nick Foles is out there. What the hell is going on? Matt Nagy is so married to his system and will not change. And basically the defense is going to suck this year, and you're going to have a sucky offense too. We are going to draft in the top 10 next year. And if Ryan Pace trades that first round pick, I'm going to absolutely have a stroke because I am going to be livid.
Health watch on Sean Hopman. Official health watch on Sean Hopman.
It's mind-numbing because this team, Akeem Hicks is probably gone, correct?
I think the chances are decently there that he is gone.
And Kyle Fuller, we expect to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, Robert Quinn is still there.
Making all that money. Now, I do think Robert Quinn can make an improvement from last year. I still can't help but wonder if he was hurt. But still, you're paying a lot of money for a guy who in his first year with you really did not meet expectations.
No, not even in the slightest.
No. I mean that, very, very lightly.
It's just frustrating. So your defense is not going to be very good. The teams in your division, the Lions are bad. You're going to beat the Lions, but the Vikings are probably going to be better because a lot of the guys that they had opt out of the season are going to be back. And the Packers, are going to be good. So you're probably going to finish third in your division. And maybe, the Lions are going to be tough to be worse than. But you look at the teams that were bad this year, and they're probably going to be much improved, right?
You'll see a number improved. Like obviously Jacksonville should be improved.
It's going to be hard to not improve. They're going to have a vastly superior quarterback, and they just spent a ton of money in free agency. Mm-hmm. The Jets are probably going to be better. Houston's going to be bad, probably.
They might be the worst team in the league.
Falcons, you got to feel like they're going to be better than a 4-win team because they were in so many games they just choked at the end.
Yeah, unless they keep choking.
The Bengals are definitely be better because Joe Burrow is going to be healthy.
Right.
Detroit's going to be worse. Carolina's probably going to be better. Who are going to be the bad teams? It's the Bears.
Bears, Lions, Texans.
Yeah. The Jets will.
I don't think that the Jets are going to be.
The Jets are going to be, but are they going to outbad the Bears?
I don't know. The Jets are pretty bad.
The Saints might not be good.
I don't think they'll be good, but I don't think they'll be terrible. I think if Jameis Winston plays, you still have enough weapons on that team to get you some wins. I still think they'll be somewhat competitive. I don't think they'll be bad.
Giants might not be good. Cowboys will probably be better. Dak is back. Denver's probably not going to be very good.
I don't know. I mean, if they fix the quarterback and you got that defense, I think Denver can take a decent step forward.
Somebody's got to be bad. So we got 3. Philadelphia probably not going to be very good.
Nah.
I don't know, but I just you look at these teams and Bears are super primed to be one of the worst teams in the NFL.
By half design.
I mean, maybe that's part of their plan is they just tear it all down and they're like, we'll put a shitty team out there, get a bunch of money off the books, and then draft our quarterback next year. Maybe that's the game plan. I don't know. I don't know.
You know what, Sean? The worst thing about this is if we would have gotten the quarterback right, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
if we would have gotten the quarterback right, we would have had a much better offense with an in-prime defense.
Yeah, imagine what happens if we have Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes.
Honestly, I don't even think about just them. I just think about something that's good enough. Like, I mean, seriously, like, what if he had a prime-time Alex Smith? You know, not the current Alex Smith, but, you know, the guy who played very well for a number of years. Imagine if he had a guy like him. What a difference it would be.
It's so frustrating. So frustrating.
And the thing is, Sean, you know, Mitch Trubisky has moved on. He's a member of the Buffalo Bills.
And good for him. I wish him well.
Me too. Me too. He always had a good attitude. It seemed like he wanted to win. It just didn't work out. Here's the thing. I don't usually agree with Colin Cowherd, but a friend sent me a video of just how bad of a fit Andy Dalton is. We're at a point in Andy Dalton's career where he is not going to win you games with his arm. Maybe back in his prime Cincinnati days, but not now. Mitchell Trubisky was not going to win you games with his arm, but he was athletic.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton is not going to be scrambling and making athletic plays. So he's not very athletic. His arm is past his prime. So how is he going to win you games?
I don't know. And I don't see how this happens. You know, if you were able to maintain a top 10 defense and adding Andy Dalton and Kenny Golladay and keeping Allen Robinson, then you're like, okay, you know, maybe if we keep Bill Lazor calling the plays, maybe we could have a middle of the road offense, and suddenly then we're actually a competitive team. And the problem is, you know, I've heard some people say, like, listen, the Bears, what have they won by paying all this money on defense? It hasn't been the defense that was the problem. They just had such an inept offense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like, how in the world do you blame the defense? For the last 4 years, they've been a very good defense. Like, that is not the problem. They've kept you in games. Like, you know, we're so used to if a team scores 25 points on us, we're like, oh my God, what happened? And you look at like the Chiefs, they're winning games, but their defense is they'll give up 42 points and they're still winning 47-42.
Well, look at 2018. You remember that primetime game against the Vikings? Do you remember what mostly happened in that game? The game was sealed with a pick six from Eddie Jackson.
Yeah.
Look at the game against the Rams. How many times did they pick off Jared Goff in that game? Like 4 or 5 times?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what you need to do. That's how they've won games.
Yeah. I mean, you beat a bunch of bottom feeders, you know, that season, but you won your big games because of your defense. I mean, you remember Mitch Trubisky in the offense wasn't very good against the Rams. They weren't very good against the Vikings. I think they were better in week 17, but still, I mean, you beat the Vikings twice, mainly because Kirk Cousins was absolutely suffocated by that defense. When you beat Aaron Rodgers to win the division, sure, you had 2 nice offensive drives, scored touchdowns, but your big plays were on defense. You sacked Aaron Rodgers multiple times. You picked him off in the end zone.
Yeah.
You know, the defense was playing at a great but unsustainable rate, and you eventually are going to need an offense to win you a game. I mean, remember the game against the Lions on Thanksgiving that year? Eddie Jackson's pick six was the game-winning touchdown. Granted, Trubisky was hurt, but still. You get my point.
Yeah, it's, you just look at, all right, Super Bowl the 2019 season and the postseason is the Chiefs in the playoffs gave up 31 points, 24 points, 20 points. They gave up 26 to Jacksonville, 28 to Baltimore, 30 to Detroit, 24 to Houston, 24 to Green Bay, 23 to Minnesota, 32 to Tennessee. They gave up a lot of points, but that they were winning these games. Their offense scored 40, 35, 31, 30, 31, 34, 33, 40, 51. The thing is if you're going to have a mediocre or sub-mediocre defense, you better have a damn good offense. You're not going to compete in the playoffs for a Super Bowl if you have a mediocre defense and a mediocre offense. And cutting defensive players on this team is not improving your offense. It is not improving your offense. So you're getting closer now to a 50-50 offensive split. And what do you expect from it? This is a badly designed team. I don't know what that plan is. Is you don't have any core. Even if you were to get lucky and Andy Dalton, and you get Kenny Galladay, and you keep Allen Robinson and Andy Dalton, the three of them have a good year, and they're all gone next year.
You know what I want to do to George McCaskey? I want to do what Biff Tannen did to George McFly. Just knock him on the head and go, "Hello, anybody home?"
McFly!
To like make him McFly.
It is just what is the plan? What is the plan? Like I don't know if you've ever seen that Chris Rock bit where he's like, "I'd never hit a woman. Never, ever hit a woman. I'd never hit a woman. But I will shake the shit out of one." I want to grab Ryan Pace and shake the shit out of him. What are you doing? What is going on in your brain? Why are you the way you are?
Please do that same exact voice when you do that.
Oh, what is the plan? If you plan to win, you need a roadmap. You need to make conscious decisions. And sure, it is a hard job being a general manager of a professional sports team.
I certainly couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm not pretending to, but you know what? At least I would have a plan. I'm not saying I'd be good at it, but I would bust my ass and I'd have a plan. Listen,
I'll trade for more draft picks for all these Marty Havlat crock pots.
Yeah, is all right. Like Trubisky stinks. What are we gonna do? All right, let's have a plan. Like, build up your draft picks. Don't backload everything. Stop kicking the can down the road with things. Sure, kicking the can down the road works if you are competing. But at some point, you got to stop and go, all right, should we kick the can down the road, or should we just bite the bullet now and eat it on the salary cap and come back next year with a better situation?
Ryan Pace was hoping he was kicking the can down the road and would fall in the gutter and be out of sight.
I think his plan was to just kick it down the road forever. And the thing is you can keep doing that, and it's eventually you have to pay the piper. So this year the Saints kind of have to pay the piper. Is they had to make some cap situations, and
yeah, they were in quite peril with the cap.
And next year or the year after, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be in the same situation. But you know what? The thing about them is the Saints, they have a Super Bowl and they have how many playoff wins, and they're always one of the teams to beat. Double-digit wins every year. And and they compete for it. The Buccaneers have a Super Bowl now.
Mm-hmm.
What do the Bears have to show for it?
Not much.
All right, here we're gonna switch over here. My buddy Gary is gonna join, and we're gonna get a preview of the White Sox, the season, because Gary is a big White Sox fan, and the thing is Alex and I do enjoy talking White Sox, but we are both Northsiders fans, and that's just kind of the reality of it. Hey Gary, Alex and Sean here. How you doing?
Hey, Alex, Sean. How are you guys doing?
We were pretty mad.
Yeah, we were pretty mad about what's going on with the Bears. You'll have to check in and listen. That team is a loser organization.
Well, the theme of my work for the week is relentless, and I have been relentlessly drinking this entire week following the Bears news.
Right on. That is that's what us fans need to do to stay sane at this point.
It is just super frustrating, but you wanted to come on and talk White Sox, so here we are, and Alex and I talk about White Sox, but we want a true diehard White Sox fans, impressions of this team, and we're coming up. The season's going to be starting shortly. Kind of a primer for this season and what we're going to expect with the White Sox.
Well, first off, thank you both for having me. As you both know, I'm friends with Sean. I listen to you guys a lot. Sean mentions my name a lot, so I feel very honored that he does.
Yes, he does mention you a lot.
I do give Sean some crap because I feel like it's somewhat biased. That not that your guys are against the White Sox, it's just that you don't talk about the day-to-day, It's if you have an hour and a half long show, they get maybe 10 minutes.
We just kind of mirror the reality of the White Sox. They're the stepchild of the Chicago fan base.
Oh boy, here comes the fighting. Oh boy.
Oh no, I'm a little too old to fight, and Sean knows this because we've been to Sox Cubs games where I'm like, let's just go. I get it, right? I have no problem being the bastard stepchild. I've been the bastard, the secondary son my whole life, so it's nothing new to me.
I think the issue is, there's always no matter what season it is, there's always a game on. Now we're in basketball, hockey, so there's a game like every night. And baseball, there's, between the two teams, there's 300 plus games going on, and it's really tough to catch all of them. So White Sox, a lot of times I'm catching highlights or reading up myself, or trying to find somewhere where there's the condensed version of the games, and trying to watch as many Cubs games as I can. It ends up being hard to it's not a full-time job for anybody where you're watching the game as part of your job.
Yeah. You guys have also been really down on the Cubs. They're still going to compete this year. I would not
compete for what?
Making the playoffs.
Okay.
That NL Central is.
Yeah, that's like oh man, somebody's going to win the NFC East. Last year. Whoop-de-doo. That doesn't mean anything.
I don't think I'd compare the NL Central to the NFC East, but I get what you're saying.
It's not a super good division, so sure they'll make the playoffs, but there's no way, they have zero chance of winning World Series, and that's really the goal.
I wouldn't say that, Sean. Look at the Marlins in 03, look at the Cardinals in 06. I'm just saying there's been history where the team that you're like, well, team should lose,
The biggest thing with me, just from my perspective, is I just think there's too much questionable pitching on this Cub team. A lot of it has been put together with sticks and gum and cheap tape, whereas the lineup can produce, and they're a very good defensive team. I'm just not sure I trust this rotation and bullpen to go on a long postseason run. That's really where my skepticism mainly comes from.
Yeah,
Sean, I don't know how you feel.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If they would have still had Yu Darvish, I could be like, all right, maybe. Kyle Hendricks, Yu Darvish, if those guys are clicking, they're tough to beat. And then you could cobble something together. Okay? But, I mean, Zach Davies as your number 2? What do you really expect to win? Look at the rotations of some of the teams in their conference. How do you throw Zach Davies in there against the Dodgers or the Padres? How do you do that and expect to win? Sure, they might win the division, and there's probably a fairly decent shot of that happening, but then what? The Bears made the playoffs this year. Oh, whoop-de-doo. There was no chance of them winning the Super Bowl, so what was the point? The whole point is to try to win the World Series, and you're either, if you're not on the way up, you're on the way down.
Yeah, I guess I just have a little Cub fandom in me, and that there's some optimism for the Cubs, in my opinion.
Well, hey, if you have some optimism, then I'll have some optimism.
But you're here to talk White Sox, a team that legit has some optimism.
Yeah, regardless of the spring training record, very high on the White Sox right now. Obviously, as you guys have mentioned before, as I brought to Sean's attention, I've been really frustrated with what could have been, but you have to move past that. And
sure,
the team is what they are, and they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I will say that.
Well, I have a quick question for you, Gary. Do you think it's possible that the anger over the Tony La Russa hiring is kind of subsiding on the South Side? Because, look, I don't think that a lot of people will ever necessarily like him as a person, just with the old-fashioned attitude or whatnot. But the guy knows how to manage a game, and he's very smart about the game of baseball. And, as time goes on, maybe you see some of the benefits of having a guy like Tony La Russa around. Would you say that's accurate, or are people still kind of frustrated about that? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I hate to say this, but it's such a Sox move to do something like that, I think the anger subsided pretty quickly because you just realized, figures the Sox would sign a guy that's 105 years old and wants to lead the team. And then, of course, has a DUI. It's almost poetic,
Yeah.
But honestly, the value of a manager has decreased so much. It's really about talent.
Sure.
In today's game. I'm not as worried. I'm actually, if there's one positive for La Russa is the White Sox have a very, very good bullpen. Probably one of the best in majors, and he knows how to handle a bullpen. So that is definitely a positive. As far as how he's going to manage, quite honestly, as far as everything subsided, it is what it is. Moved on. Let's try to have some fun this year.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we've expressed concern that Andrew Vaughn seems to almost be handed the starting DH job with very, very limited professional at-bats. Do you think the solid performance so far in spring training from Zach Collins has maybe lessened the worry of that?
No. Sorry, was that too quick an answer?
No, it's fine. Do you still have concerns about that DH spot?
I mean, it's just unfortunate. They had the money. They could have signed a veteran, even if it was even if it resulted in Edwin Encarnacion type season, at least you have that veteran that's been there before to help Andrew Vaughn. Zach Collins, up until this point, has what, a cup of tea in the majors. I mean, you're trying to win a World Series. You're basically banking the DH on two guys that have had what, a quarter of a year experience total in the majors, and maybe 2 years or 5 years experience of pro baseball total. Like it's a lot.
Well, Vaughn has like next to no professional experience. So that's the troubling part for me is he could end up when it's all said and done having a very good career. That's a strong possibility, but what rookie has come right in and not struggled? And
sure,
this is a team that has very few holes, and so why wouldn't you bring even like you said, a veteran, a mid-level veteran that, if nothing else, you could split the at-bats with, because if Vaughn starts having some troubles in a slump, you're not stuck there with very limited options of who you put in at DH.
Well, I mean, to the White Sox defense, it's not like they've been doing well in that department for the last 15 years. So I name one DH for the White Sox that has produced.
I mean, what are your options there? It's Zach Collins, Lurie Garcia.
I mean, really, you have to, if the team is really competing, you have to think by the trade deadline they're going to go after somebody. That's at this point, that's what I at least hope for. A veteran that a team just wants to give an opportunity to win a championship, so they're going to trade him for a bag of peanuts.
I mean, today they batted Billy Hamilton at DH.
Oh yeah, I forgot they signed him.
They did?
Yeah.
DHs and stealing bases, that's a hot commodity nowadays.
I had no idea. He's kind of becoming the next Terrence Gore, because, he was on the Reds for a while. A good, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And then since he left Cincinnati, I mean, he has bounced around everywhere. So now he'll be another one of those legends that's with both Chicago baseball teams. Good for him. You know what, though, is I'm just going to throw this out into the ether. But do you know what Billy Hamilton's OPS is in the spring so far? What? 1,000. Oh. How many at-bats? I don't know.
I'm sorry, man. That means nothing to me. It's spring training.
I know. I'm joking. Billy Hamilton can't have 1,000 OPS, for any sort of sample size other than, a game or two. It's just impossible. So, but it is funny that we're laughing about it and being the DH and him being on the White Sox and nobody knows, and here he is sitting with his 1,000 OPS. MVP. So how are you feeling about the White Sox starting rotation for going forward for this year?
I mean, you probably assume how I'm feeling. The top three are fantastic. If you're going for it, you make that trade. You trade a Dane Dunning for Lance Lynn anytime. It's unfortunate that they also go after a DH if they're making a run for it. But the top three in rotation, I wouldn't, you would put those guys up against anyone. Dylan Cease and Carlos Rodon have both looked good in spring training, so that's encouraging. I had high hopes for Dylan Cease. He's a little wild, and hopefully he puts together. Rodon there's only so much you can hope for with him, with the injuries and the unmet expectations, but who knows? Maybe this will be the year. So going into the season, I'm not terribly upset with the starting rotation. It's adequate enough to compete. They also have a couple guys in the minors, like Jimmy Lambert, who can come up. So cautiously optimistic, barring injuries. They also have Ronaldo Lopez, who they moved to the bullpen, and I'm thrilled about that because I actually think he could succeed in the bullpen, but he also could be used as a spot starter at times.
You know, I always think that spot starter, long reliever type guy is critical for making a real playoff run. I mean, we've seen how important it is between injuries and especially when you have truncated schedules where you have, 25 games in 27 days or something ridiculous, those types of situations where you need to add that sixth starter, a guy that is able to do it, even if he might not be your top choice of being a regular starter. It's just a very valuable commodity. And we've had guys like that, like Mike Montgomery was able to do it for the Cubs. Remember
what Charlie Morton did for the Astros a few years ago?
Yeah. So those are like important pieces, and I hope that ends up being a fit for Reynaldo Lopez, because you know what, it's funny. I think he talent wise, I think he does have a lot of good stuff. It just, that guy just can't put it together, and you hope middle relief kind of takes the pressure off and helps him find his way a little bit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. At times he's looked sensational. He's had some spot starts where there's one game he had like 14 strikeouts. And then unfortunately 3/4 of the time it's an adventure. So yeah, I'm really hoping, I feel like he should be a bullpen guy. He should have been last year. So I'm happy they put him there. And if he's the last guy on their bullpen, I mean, I do want to talk a little about their bullpen, because I don't know if you guys are aware, Jimmy Cordero's going down with Tommy John surgery.
I did just see that, yeah.
Which, as much as he was used last year, and I like him, I don't think that's that bad of a thing, to be honest. That would give Matt Foster an opportunity to pitch more, and he's got really good stuff. And then you look at Cody Hoyer. I mean, basically, if you had a bullpen that had a bunch of guys that could throw 100 miles an hour, which is what the Sox bullpen is, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then you end it with Liam Hendricks. Yeah, that to me is the most. I know everyone talks about the hitting of the White Sox, but that bullpen, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because like you said, a lot of hard throwers, and having guys that could pump up triple digits is more important than ever, especially at the back end of a bullpen. So yeah, I definitely think that could arguably be their best asset. Obviously, like you said, the offense is going to be very, very big, but bullpens are more important than ever. And having a good one like that, that can help take you on a very long postseason run to the end.
What's nice about having that strong bullpen is, with the White Sox offense, is they can score any point and against pretty much anybody. And it really puts the other team in a position of, man, they better score a bunch of runs in the first 6 innings, because that back three probably not going to score a lot of runs. And then you put in that the top 3 starters are probably not going to give up a ton of runs either. That really puts teams in a bind against the White Sox. And the White Sox, those guys can put up runs against anybody. So you feel like they could score at any point through 9 innings. It's just a nice position to be in, to shrink the game a little bit.
And one other thing to mention with their bullpen is there's two guys that are going to be future starters, and Garrett Crochet and Michael Kopech. And it's going to be exciting to see them develop this year.
Are they going to be starters, though?
Yeah, I think so. I think the plan is that both of them will be starters.
My personal opinion is I think Crochet is going to be a Chris Sale type where he starts in the pen, then works his way to the rotation. And maybe this is just my opinion. Maybe, it might not be the plan yet, but this is just how I see it. I always kind of saw Michael Kopech as being a long-term bullpen guy, but that's just me. Who knows?
Only time will tell. I either way, it's a good position to be in. I think, Kopech is going to need time. He's been out for 3 years now, or two.
Yeah,
2.5.
was when he made his debut, I believe.
But he's got electric stuff. If he's anywhere near where he was, he'll have a place on the roster.
Well, we've seen what Crochet can do. The guy's got filthy stuff.
Yeah, that was, and I think he wasn't even, I know he was the first round pick for the White Sox, but he wasn't even the quote unquote best pitcher at the time picked. Their second round pick, I forgot his name. He was the one everyone, Jared, okay, sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but he was the one everyone was really up in arms about how good he was going to be. And Crochet is just awesome. So what he did last year, and to have a lefty throw that hard with the slider he has, it's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, when in the playoffs when they brought him out, even if he isn't, doesn't have the command, just being able to throw that fast and that hard, really is a weapon. We saw on the other side of town when we had Aroldis Chapman, even when he wasn't hitting his mark, just the ability to people are gearing up for a fastball that they're swinging at bad pitches because they can't keep up with a 102 mile an hour pitch. It's a weapon, and
yeah, definitely.
And you saw that against the A's when they brought Crochet in the playoffs.
Jared Kelly is who I was referring to, by the way. Garrett Crochet, barring injury, because you always have to think that Tommy John is on the horizon at any time, he's going to be something special.
The nice thing about Tommy John is it's not a death sentence anymore. You miss a year of it, but let's say it does happen, it's not like all is lost. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But I just, whenever Tommy John is mentioned, it always puts a lot of things in perspective. It's nice that medical technology and just the approach that people can easly bounce back from it. Yu Darvish did.
What's crazy
a lot of guys have.
is I've read reports of young pitchers like high school, college age pitchers, getting excited when they have to have Tommy John, because then they're like, well, got it out of the way early, and nowhere to go but up now. And I'm like, that's a weird way to look at it. Is you think back as Alex, you're a lot younger than Gary and I are, but like Gary, you can remember when we were both kids, somebody had Tommy John, you're like, oh man, or torn ACL, and oh geez, the end of his career, done. and now you look at both of those injuries and you're like, all right, gotta wait a year, but then they'll be back to normal. And it's you're right, Alex. The medical technology as far as these surgeries goes is so crazy how improved it is.
Back in your day, they tried to cure it with leeches.
Back then, the doctors prescribed you cocaine for ghosts in your blood.
Well, Sean, in the 80s, there might have been some truth to that in baseball.
Well,
yeah, the Mets.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you guys heard, they're talking about contract extensions for Andrew Vaughn and Lucas Giolito. And, Sean and I have talked in the past about the Cubs and what I feel they should have done with their young talent, and they didn't, and everything the White Sox are doing, which is why it's so frustrating that the White Sox aren't spending money, by the way, is they're signing their young talent to long-term deals, and they're willing to make that small investment for the long-term dividend. And it's be honest, because we all know Reinsdorf is cheap, it's really what's going to save the White Sox, is that they keep these guys for a long time.
Yeah, I know. I did see the report that they were talking about it. Yeah, no, I definitely think that's a good thing to do, to keep those guys around. For the Cubs, I think they could have done that with a number of players. I think you could have done that with Baez and Contreras. They technically did it with Rizzo, but outside him, they didn't do it to much anybody else. Chris Bryant's the only one where I say, look, Scott Boras is his agent. That was never going to happen. But, with some of those other guys, I definitely do agree. And yeah, that keeps them around longer at a club-friendly deal. And I mean, didn't they do the same thing with Quintana and Chris Sale? I mean, that's one of the reasons they got the value back that they did, was because the deal was so club-friendly. So yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me to see that get done at some point.
That's the cool thing about getting a team-friendly, lengthy extensions done, is number one, as a team, it saves money that you can put towards other players. But in the case where you're like, all right, it's time to rebuild, it's a real asset. Do you think that they would have gotten the hauls that they did for Quintana and Sale if they didn't have them locked up for long-term deals and at club-friendly prices? Like those are, huge selling points, and you get a lot of return for caliber players that are on the cheap. If you got to pay starting pitcher, if you trade for a starting pitcher that's making $8 million a year, for 3 years, you're going to pay a whole lot more than you are for a starting pitcher that's got 3 years at $38 million a year, because of the impact that has on your salary cap issues.
Well, I'll say the one positive, or one really, really nice thing about what the White Sox are doing is they're banking on the young guys, and they're not missing. And I think, other teams have done similar contracts and they've missed. Literally every one the White Sox have done, they've hit gold with. So it's been pretty impressive to this point.
Yeah, I mean, it has. I mean, they, like Tim Anderson, they gave him that contract extension early when there was still a lot of questions about what kind of player he would be.
Yeah, hopefully those questions are gone. I know every year they're like, he's not one of the best shortstops, but I mean, it's been 2.5 years. I think we can start saying he's an elite shortstop.
Yeah, but when he signed that contract,
yeah,
he was a guy that, couldn't draw a walk to save his life. And you were like, is this guy a major league player? Because, he's not an elite defender, and it's not a knock. It's just a fact, but the guy can hit. But at the time, he wasn't putting up those hitting numbers, and he was still a meh fielder.
He was very raw at the time.
Yeah, so it was they gave him that early, and the thing is, good thing is they didn't give those extensions to like Carson Fulmer, or who was a guy that I think White Sox organization and the fans were high on for a while.
Gordon Beckham. Yeah, I mean, they've been smart about that. And then you look at the guys that they have done that to. It's just, even when they do, and the fun thing about it is, even when they have bad seasons, like Yohan Moncada had a bad season last year, but it was still very productive. And that's the exciting part, is even if you're not going to be Mike Trout and have a good season every year.
He's one in a million.
Yeah. It's really how bad you are when you have your bad season. And I would take a Yohan Moncada bad season any day over unmet expectations. I think Yohan will rebound. I think he's going to have a good season this year. And I mean, you look at Luis Robert, he had a rocky, up and down rookie season, but the sky's the limit for that guy. And Eloy is an absolute stud. It's nice to see that this is the team that we're going to see for at least the next 5 years.
How long do you think their window realistically is for like World Series contention? Because I think it's a pretty sizable window. I'm just curious to see what you think.
Oh, it depends how cheap Jerry Reinsdorf is.
Well,
I as I told Sean, my biggest worry is when their salary starts increasing, and it's not. And the sad thing is, it's not even like $30 million a year. Is when you have 4 guys getting $18 million a year. are the White Sox going to accept that and not dump the salary? Because I don't have faith that they're not going to look to be cheap. So that's what when you talk about a window, it could be long, but if history repeats itself, the White Sox are always going to be kind of looking at the finances and from year to year seeing how things are, and that's what worries me.
You know, not to railroad this, but I saw a picture recently of one of your former favorite players, and he's looking old. Shingo Takatsu.
I mean, for half a season, he was awesome. I will say that.
Didn't you used to have a Shingo Takatsu jersey?
Yeah, I bought into that. You know, it was a hype. It was awesome.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a Fukudomi jersey, so we're all good.
And you know what? They won the World Series, so I can't complain.
Shingo, I saw a picture of him, and man, he's not that old. He's like 50, but he looked old. Whew. Sorry, not to railroad.
Speaking of which, okay, Gary, I have an interesting question for you, just out of curiosity. Speaking of guys like Shingo Takatsu, who do you think in your White Sox viewing history was the biggest disappointment? A guy you thought was going to be an absolute star and just ended up completely flaming out. If you had to name one guy, who was it?
Oh, yeah. Dude, I forgot his name. The power hitting right-hander that he had like a 500-foot homer. I can't recall his name though.
Adam Dunn?
No, not Adam Dunn. He went it. I apologize. I can't remember his name.
Was he recent?
No, it was like 07, 08, 09. And everyone thought he was going to be a stud, and he just did nothing. I mean, there's a lot of pitchers that fall into that category too. I kind of look at anywhere from 08 to 2018. Anyone who we had any idea that would do good, like thought that would be good and productive.
Was it Josh Fields by any chance you're thinking of?
No, but it was around the same time. Josh Fields was
Carlos Quentin?
No, hang on.
Well, Carlos Quentin was pretty good.
Yeah, he was a 2-time All-Star.
He just got hurt a lot.
Yeah, he could hit. It's fun to watch. If you guys talk amongst yourselves, I could figure out who it was.
I'm surprised you didn't say Gordon Beckham.
No, not Gordon Beckham.
I'm surprised.
He was pretty hyped, I remember.
Yeah, there was a lot
and
of
he had
hype.
a pretty good rookie. He had a pretty good rookie year too, if I remember. I think he was like one of the Rookie of the Year finalists. I want to say that was 08, 09. I know you're not thinking of Alexei Ramirez.
No.
Because he was pretty good for a while.
But Gordon Beckham was a disappointment. Not saying that was the guy you're thinking of, but I was surprised that you didn't bring him up because he was a guy that I think there was a lot of high hopes about and just never really materialized.
Obviously Garcia, I know he wasn't like Joe Borchard was who I was referring to.
Oh, I forgot about him.
It took a while. Joe Borchard was coming up, and everyone was like, "This guy's gonna be the next home run king," and he was nothing. But Avisel Garcia was someone I had high hopes for, and he just never really panned out. He had that one fluke year. And when he came up, I thought he was going to be an absolute stud. He's,
people called him Baby Miggy.
Yeah, I was about to say he's the next Cabrera, but yeah, no, he never really panned out. But Joe Borchard was coming up, and everyone was like, "This guy is going to hit 50 homers a year."
Oh, here he is. Borchard launches tape measure home run on YouTube versus Philadelphia Phillies. Here we go. Oh my! Wow, he hit that to like the walkway back there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Man.
So yeah, what year was this? 2004. Okay, 2004.
He hit 26 home runs in his major league career. In 6 years. So
Played with the Marlins after the White Sox.
if you gave him 100 for his career, 162 game average, he's a 14 home run guy.
Yeah.
Close enough to the 50 home runs, right? Yeah.
Probably couldn't hit off speed.
Joe Borchard, I forgot about that. Man, that's a name that just.
He was the 12th overall pick in the 2000 draft. He was originally drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, did not sign. That was in 97. And then 12th overall in 2000 by the White Sox out of Stanford University. So there you go, Joe Borchard. I never thought we'd have a show discussing Joe Borchard, but here we are.
Joe Borchard.
That being said, I do want to stress that
you know who was drafted just a couple of picks after Joe Borchard? Chase Utley.
Don't make me feel bad, Sean.
Chase Utley.
What I was going to say was
Adam Wainwright.
It hasn't been since Frank Thomas and Maglia Ordonez that the hype around prospects have been the way it is now with Eloy and Luis Robert. And so it's been a minute, since as a Sox fan, I've been as excited about young talent. I mean, you guys constantly have talent. I tell Sean all the time, you guys have been the last 25 years. I know you only won one World Series, but you've been spoiled. You've seen a lot of winning baseball.
Well,
it's been.
I wish we could have won a few more, but
it took us long enough. Like I honestly, I'm not even joking around. I convinced myself and just prepared myself that I was like, you know what, you are going to live your entire life and never see a World Series for the Cubs. And I had, I didn't like it, but I had swallowed that medicine. So when they did win one, like I cried because I was like, this is something that I never thought would happen in my life.
He cried into his Marty Havlat crock pot.
Hey, if you love baseball, you have to do it. In 2005, when the White Sox won the World Series, I was at the United Center, and this is going to sound really, so I had this line that I used to tell women. I know this is not great, but
me too.
I used to say, to get out of situations, the day I tell a girl I love her is the day I know that that's the girl I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And it did get me out of situations. It worked really well. And when the White Sox won the World Series, I was with my future wife, and I was crying like Sean at the United Center, and I looked over at her and I said, I just want to let you know I love you very much. And I'm crying like a baby, and she just starts laughing. It was a moment that it took.
Those are the special moments you always remember.
That and it's got to feel good that you are in a window where you could get another World Series.
I mean, if the Dodgers and Padres and Yankees weren't so good, I'd feel better. But
Hey man, the Yankees always get hurt. I mean, that team on paper looks like they should win the World Series every year, but they are always hurt. Always.
I feel like they sold their soul to win all those World Series, years ago.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, they're paying the piper. They're like, well, we put a good team together. They're like, well, Tommy John surgery, broken knee, back spasms.
Why is John Lackey narrating this now?
Well,
by the way, I love your guys' John Lackey comments. It's hilarious.
John Lackey.
Ba-ting!
I still want to get John Lackey on the show. I feel like his wife would find it hilarious, and we just need to get him on. He'd probably be pissed the whole time.
What the hell am I doing on this damn show?
From a Sox fan perspective, back in 2005, John Lackey was on the Angels, and he was one of the better pitchers on the Angels, and media loved him, and beating him was just glorious. And then he came to the Cubs.
Don't like it. They need him as the new GM to lasso up the Ricketts family, turn him over. He basically lasso them and hang them over the rope over the rafter and shake the change out of their pocket so they can buy some players.
He holds out a spittoon and all the change goes inside it.
It's like the church plate that you pass with money. He's got a spittoon and he's under all the Ricketts, just shaking them out for their money.
Yeah, you guys are. By the way, with the Ricketts, you guys are in trouble. It's very much McCaskey-like. I feel for you guys. They're all about money, and they're not obviously not about winning.
They got their World Series. Now it's time to cash.
You know, it's sad is in the 4 major sports, we have 5 teams in this city, and most of them are owned by cheap assholes. Like how?
Just imagine if Old Man Wirtz was still around.
If Old Man Wirtz, this would be the worst sports town in the world.
Oh, no question.
And we would have a cheap ass shitty hockey team, and then our basketball team cheap because it's owned by the same guy who owns the White Sox, who's cheap, who's owned by the Cubs owned by the Ricketts, who are cheap, and the McCaskey family are just incompetent.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy I missed your guys' rants on the Bears. It's been a brutal week. So let's not rehash that.
I can reenact my what I'm going to do if I see Ryan Pace.
Do it.
I'm going to literally grab him. I'm just imagining being at Starbucks or something and seeing Ryan Pace in the North Shore and just running up, grabbing him by his lapel, and what is wrong with you? Why are you the way you are?
So I'm sorry, I'm rehashing. So when the Bears signed Andy Dalton, I was in a meeting with some of my architects the next day, and one of the people leading the meeting was wearing a Bears jersey, and everyone's like, "Why are you wearing that jersey?" And that was before they released Kyle Fuller.
Oh, jeez.
Honest question. Why in the world, even if you are a Bears fan, and we're all Bears fans here, but why in the world would you buy a Bears jersey? Who on this team are you buying a jersey for?
Cairo Santos.
Yeah, they gave him an extension, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
How awesome.
Yes, they did.
Honestly, part of me is just like, I kind of want an orange Cairo Santos jersey.
Yeah, but the minute you buy it, he's going to turn into Cody Parkey.
I know.
I mean, I got a Jordan Howard jersey, and he was traded the next year. Granted, that was a gift. I didn't pay for it, but still.
It's like who, with the, there's a lot of players in this league. You're like, if you were a Patriots fan, I have my Tom Brady jersey. He played 400 years for our team.
And won us like every championship.
Yeah, and the Packers, you could still buy a Brett Favre jersey, but you could buy an Aaron Rodgers jersey. He's been on the team forever. And it's like these other teams are like, oh, we've got a guy. All right, we got Khalil Mack. But honestly, I'm like, are we going to trade Khalil Mack on draft night?
And how much more prime does Khalil Mack have?
Khalil Mack, they're going to trade him for a conditional 6th round pick.
Really.
We were able to extract value for trading Khalil Mack. We got a conditional 6th rounder.
We are very high on the 6th rounder. We feel that it is going to bring us to the future.
And then you're like, you find out from Adam Schefter that the conditions are if he has 47 sacks that year, it's a 6th rounder. Otherwise, it is a 7th rounder in 4 years. You're like, damn it, we're not going to get that.
Hey, look at the bright side, guys.
What is the bright side?
We got about 6-7 years now of winning 6 or 7 games a year.
Oh yeah.
These two bungling idiots are not going to get fired next year. We're in a year from now, we're going to be sitting here listening to their stupid press conferences where Matt Nagy's going to remind us that he's not an idiot, which the only people that have to tell you that they're not an idiot are idiots. And like literally, who has to explain to somebody that they're not an idiot? Like that's the only time you have to say that is if you did something stupid. you walk in and there's the washing machine or the dishwasher is overflowing with soap, and you're like, did you put dish soap in this and not, dishwasher soap? Yeah, but I'm not an idiot. It's the only time you have to say you're not an idiot is when you do something dumb. And Matt Nagy on more than one occasion has had to tell the media he's not an idiot. And Ryan Pace he's just given up on that. He's just collaborating at this point.
We're collaborating.
Everything is on the table.
Everything is on the table, including my coffee mug that I'm pretty sure Sean Hotman just peed in.
We are looking at a lot of situations, and everything is on the table at this point, and we're collaborating, and we feel good about this collaboration because we're collaborating about the collaboration.
Well, I have some logic about what Ryan Pace did, if you guys want to hear.
I do want to hear, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. All right,
entertain me.
It's entertaining. I don't know if I'm wrong.
Make my day.
So, basically, he knew he was on the hot seat. So, he's going to draft a QB in the first round. And that will buy him time to see how the QB develops. And that will give him a couple more years as a GM.
I think they're totally going to draft in the first round. But the problem is that we went through this. If they would have lost 2 more games this season, which they very well could have, they should have lost the Buccaneers game. But if they would have lost 2 more games, they would have been drafting 11th, which is a lot easier to get a better quarterback. But they're drafting 20th now. They're going to have to trade up to get one of those top quarterbacks because I honestly feel that the first round grade quarterbacks are going to be gone by the time they draft. And they're going to have to choose of drafting one of the second round grade quarterbacks with the first round pick, or trade back and take them later, or, which is a more Bears move, trade up in the second to get one of those guys. And that's the problem is you look at the top quarterbacks in the draft. You've got Trevor Lawrence is going to be first, period. Zach Wilson will probably be the second quarterback overall. Justin Fields and Trey Lance. Trey Lance is probably, so I feel like the Panthers are going to draft a quarterback. But those guys you're probably having 4 quarterbacks in the top 11 picks. So that means Mac Jones has to slide past the Vikings, has to slide past the Washington football team. He's going to have to slide past the New England Patriots. There are a lot of teams that Mac Jones is going to have to slide back to, and he's the one shot you have of a quarterback being there at number 20. Otherwise, it's Kyle Trask out of Florida, who is a guy that's probably a second round grade. And then after that, it drops off precipitously. So, that's the problem with where they're drafting. And if they trade up, you're probably gonna have to give up a next year's first round pick to move up. And that's probably going to be a top 5-6 pick.
Well, look at the bright side, Sean. Was it worth beating Tom Brady to be in this position? Because Pace wouldn't have drafted well anyways. So
that's the thing is,
at least we can say we beat Tom Brady.
Yeah.
For the first time ever,
yeah.
No less.
It took him being in the league 400 years before the Bears could beat him. That's the problem.
Hey, you know who didn't beat Tom Brady last year?
Patrick Mahomes.
And more importantly,
Aaron Rodgers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's that's just the issue is, it would be nice to be able to draft a first round quarterback. It just, they have to trade up to do it. And I'm looking at CBS's most up to date, their mock draft. So they have Trevor Lawrence going number 1, Zach Wilson going number 2, Justin Fields going number 7, Trey Lance going 10, Mac Jones going 19, which, the Bears draft 20th. So the next quarterback they have going in the draft is gotta go down a bit here. Oof. Kyle Trask, 72, the 72nd pick. So really, it drops off after Mac Jones. And Mac Jones, I don't know what he's going to be like. So the problem is if you don't get... And Trey Lance is a guy I like a lot, but he's got... he played at North Dakota State, same place as Carson Wentz. And he played one game this season because the whole season was canceled. And they convinced them or allowed them to play one game for his draft pick, so he didn't get dinged so much for that. But he played one game this year, and he's a lot of raw talent. And Justin Fields is, he's going to be a hit or miss guy. I'm not particularly high on him. Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence are the two picks of the class, and they're going 1 and 2. So, it's, if you're the Bears, your hope is maybe to trade up and get Mac Jones. That's, or you take that gamble that Kyle Trask falls to you in the second round. This is a pretty low point as a Bears fan.
I mean, Henry Burris was a low point.
You're right. We've had some real low points here, but we're in dark times right now. There's not a light at the end of the tunnel that we can see.
So I joined your podcast. It's been a rough week for all of us. Do you guys have any positive things to talk about?
I gave my positive. Andy Dalton's hair is going to look really good against the Bears uniforms.
Oh.
But
they wear helmets.
When he's on the sidelines, he takes his helmet off, and he has got a nice haircut. I like Andy Dalton's haircut. I'm jealous of his head of hair.
Doesn't take much, Sean.
Whoa. And I can't wait to watch the Bears get decimated while I'm eating my winning pizza.
Crap, I still gotta buy you that. Damn it. Thanks for reminding me.
The problem is you and your youthful exuberance, you thought the Bears would do something not stupid.
No, I knew this was going to happen. I told you that. Oh, you talked about them not getting fired.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right.
The Bears could do the smart thing or they could do the stupid thing.
Well, I made that bet after the Detroit loss. I mean, everything looked like it was dead after that.
I just knew it. Yeah, honest to God, I'm willing to bet another pizza that those two got extensions.
No, I am done betting pizza with you. And you know what I'm going to do to that pizza? I'm going to do so many unthinkable acts to it, and I'm just going to ring your doorbell, drop it on your doorstep, and just walk away without another word. You'll see the box slightly open as it impacts. So you see the pizza bounce up and bounce in with like part of it hanging out.
I'll still eat it.
Yeah, I know you will.
I'll just heat it up in my Marty Havlat crock pot. All right, Gary, is there anything else White Sox that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered a lot. If you guys you know, if the opportunity presents itself, I'd love to talk about the White Sox when they are either doing great or not hitting expectations during the season.
Yeah,
We'll arrange that.
yeah, we will arrange that. And the nice thing is if they go on a 5-game losing streak with a full season, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I was thinking of going on, starting out 5-10, similar to spring training.
Well, if that happens, we'll be sure to give you a call.
Yeah,
We like spitting venom here.
that's what we do. Beat
yeah, that's
angry.
what we do.
All right, thanks a lot.
I apologize too. I'm an optimistic White Sox fan, but I'm also a realist, and I've seen too much. Similar to what you guys are talking about with the Bears, I've seen too much of. Oh God! Like there was literally an article last week in the Athletic about Adam LaRoche's son, and it's just I've seen too much.
Little Drake?
To be like, yeah, it's.
Little Drake LaRoche. He's the locker room hero.
Life is a Chicago sports fan.
Yeah. So when I get down and Sean says, Gary says that, the White Sox suck and he's pissed off at them. I don't want to, it's because I'm a Chicago fan and I'm used to it, but I'm definitely optimistic about the year. So
yeah, we all can sympathize with that feeling. That's when you're a Chicago sports fan, having that cautious optimism, but remembering the demons of the past. I mean, that's part of the deal. That's what we sign up for.
Yeah, cold winters and just being beaten down by our sports teams.
Go us.
All right, thanks a lot,
well,
Gary.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you letting me come on.
Later, Gary.
Bye.
All right, let's wrap this up quickly with a little Hawks and a little Bulls here. Not too much here. The Hawks got pantsed this week by a couple of Florida teams.
Yeah, look, all I can say is, and I said this on the solo podcast, they've fallen back down to earth. We were kind of expecting it. Some of these young kids are still playing well, but they weren't going to keep winning the way they were playing, especially against teams that are honestly just way out of their league. I mean, I there's not much else to say.
Yeah, the couple things I wanted to say is Lankinen, coming back down to earth a bit, and my concern is was he a flash in the pan, or is he a legitimate number one goalie that is just having some rookie struggles?
Time will tell, I think.
And that's on my,
you gotta
that's
give
my,
him more of a chance.
oh yeah. I'm not beating him up. I'm just, that's right now is they have 3 young goalies. They have Delia, they have Subban, and they have Lankinen, who are all 3 young guys. And right now they've been riding with the oldest of the 3, who's still 27. And I don't want them to be riding the one that, if he's giving up 4 goals a game, it would be nice to at least give another shot to Colin Delia or give some more time to Malcolm Subban just to see what we have and get a good representation, because you gotta pick one and develop them. I just want to make sure that we're picking the right one, because I'm banking on that they're not going to go outside the organization, as they're going with one of these 3 guys. And I just want to make sure that they give everybody an opportunity to see a full evaluation.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
The other thing is it's sounding like Jonathan Taves is going to miss this entire season and be back for next season.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he's missing this year. So as long, get healthy, get better. That's what's most important.
After this week, I wouldn't say he's missing it.
No, no.
But we are going to have Kirby Doc back, and sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mentioned last show he's skating again. He's doing activities. That's a great sign.
But now it's going to be a dilemma of what do we do with Dylan Strome? We're like 3 weeks away from the trade deadline. He's an oddball because He's probably got to be a wing on the top two lines. Doesn't have a defensive prowess enough to be on the bottom two lines. I feel like he's going to get caught in the numbers game a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think at this point you got to prioritize one over the other, and you got to prioritize one of your top prospects over anything. And, Dylan Strome, as I've mentioned before, he's a decent at best depth guy. And, like I've said before too, I've always felt like the Hawks have been strangely high on him for, what he is. But I don't think it's going to cause any issues going forward. I think the prioritizing is going to all fall in place, and it's good to have depth. It is, but you're going to have to make a decision at some point with this.
Yeah, I just I don't know what kind of trade you could get for him, and
probably not much.
Probably not much at all. He probably sticks it out and then walks in a contract year.
Yeah,
that's probably what happens. I think he kind of falls to the wayside a little bit, which, they were very high on him, and I'm not sure why, but he didn't meet their expectations, and I guess for me it was I didn't have any expectations, so he's hitting them perfectly.
Right. Yeah.
But for the trade deadline is going to be in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's coming up fast.
And I've heard reports that Bowman is willing to take on cap space because they have cap space.
Yes, they do.
The issue is why take on cap space?
I mean, if you're quote unquote rebuilding and, you're seeing the warts show after playing better than you expected, it's pretty clear you're not in the same league with the top contenders. Even if you have played some close games with them, have as much cap space going forward in the future. I mean, the cap situation with Brett Seabrook retiring has completely flipped. You went from being in just absolute cap hell to actually having some space. Why not look towards the future? Why not say, you know what? Let's develop these guys this year, these young guys, and then next year when they have a year under their belt and you maybe have a chance to keep pushing forward, then try to look to add. I don't know what the free agent class looks like, but over the next 2 years, there's bound to be some good free agents that can help you immediately. So, I don't see why there'd be a huge need to make a big move.
Yeah, I just don't see what the point is. It's not like they're a really good team that has a hole that you can fill with, like it's not like this is during their dynasty run, and you're like, oh, you know what, we need another top line winger. All right, let's get somebody. But this is not it. Like, what's the point of taking on cap room? You're not one player away or 2 players away. You're I don't know what you're exactly away because you've got so many young players. You sort of have to evaluate and see what you're going to get. And you're a different team when you have Jonathan Taves and you have Kirby Doc. So, obviously you're like, oh, maybe if we could get a young defenseman somewhere in a draft, somebody that's looking to, but honestly is who's looking to dump a young player that's good. I just, what would be the point unless they're just going to do one of those things where they're going to take on a contract and they get a pick, somebody's dumping a salary, which I don't really want to do, but
right. Yeah. I don't either.
So I can't see what move the Hawks are going to make. Just stand pat. You've got yourself a young team, develop those players, and then see where you are after free agency in the off season.
Build as many assets and have as much room as you can for the future.
Yeah, use that. Yeah, spend money on players rather than trading players and then spending money on them. Is because you.
But Stan Bowman, he loves the trades. That's what he does.
He does. He really does. He loves to wheel and deal, even if it's just a stupid trade. Like, it's like I'll trade you $5 for this, and then next week he's like, I'll trade this back to you for $5. You're like, why? Do you just like to see your name in the news?
Trades.
And then Bulls. That it's again they are a team. They blow out Oklahoma City, which I guess is a bad team, but then they absolutely poop the bed and blow a game against the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, it's choke job.
You got outscored by 20 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, just brutal. Just brutal.
And I don't know if you got a chance to listen, but Big Dave and C-Dub did a 2-part podcast where they had Joe Cowley on.
I gotta listen to that.
It's good. Joe Cowley sometimes he's obnoxious and drives me crazy, but he was really good on the show. And they talked about future of the Bulls, and they hit a lot of good points. How do you get another superstar on this team? And you look, there's the trade deadline's coming up, and obviously they're probably not going to be buyers. That wouldn't make any sense.
No, of course not.
But who do you have that's worth trading? There's teams that are asking about Thad Young, but why? Why trade him? You're not making that much money, and he's been probably your second best player all season long.
Thad Young's a good player, but would he really get you much to warrant a trade? That's the question.
That's the point is, what are you going to get for him? Even if you get a late first rounder, is that enough? Because you're not going to get a late first rounder. You're not getting a guy that's as good as Thad Young.
Right.
The problem with the NBA draft is if you're not drafting in the top 10, everybody outside of that is probably at best a bench guy.
For the most part.
Every once in a while you'll get somebody later on, but that's not the general rule. Where you look as like an NFL, you've got starters because you have a lot more starters, but you have starters all up and down the draft. That's not really the case in the NBA. Second rounders are just basically G leaguers, most of the time. Mm-hmm. So Thad Young, what are you really going to get for him that's better than having him on your team, for another season? I just keep him. Same thing with Satoransky and Garrett Temple. Sure, you could trade them, but are you going to get anything for them? Having the veteran,
nothing valuable for the future.
Having the veterans on your team, that's probably more valuable to you. The two options you really have are Wendell Carter Jr. and Lauri Markkanen, probably, because those are probably your two biggest question marks on your team of your quote core. Because Lauri Markkanen is the reports are they are $4 million a year apart in contract negotiations.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And he's between his injuries and his inconsistencies, what are you getting out of him? To warrant that. And Wendell Carter Jr., you've had injuries, and you've seen some defensive liabilities come about, and you're like, okay, well, what is he part of our core going forward? You're not trading Patrick Williams. You feel like him and Zach LaVine are safe. It's just what happens after that.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot of big decisions Arturas Karnisovas is going to have to make pretty soon, because there's a lot, there's a lot that could change.
And what's great is for as tough a decisions there are, having a real front office, and you really feel it. There has not been. When you look at even anonymous reports, nobody's anonymously bad-mouthing this front office staff. Everybody is putting their name on things and praising. They're like, the Bulls got it right. And
Yeah.
they really did get it right in who they chose. Does that mean they're guaranteed that they're going to win a NBA title? No, but at least they have a competent front office. That means they're going to do the best, they're going to do a competent job and keep you in this. It's just, man, they made a good head coaching hire. It's just now it's figuring out what puzzle pieces you have and how you move on, because we really haven't seen them make any moves yet, because it's their new front office and new head coaching staff.
Yeah, they're still evaluating.
This is really that first opportunity where you're like, all right, are we going to see them do anything? And the trade deadline is just in a couple of days, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. And I would be surprised if they make a move. They probably stand pat. No pun intended.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if they're not very active either.
And the funny thing is I don't know how many teams are actually going to be active in the trade deadline, because with the expanded playoffs, and then you look at the Eastern Conference is still between the 6th. So from 4th seed down to let's do the cutoff at the 11th. There are like 4 games separating the 4th seed and the 11th seed. That means there are that many teams that are just right there in the hunt to make the playoffs. And honestly, the teams that are below them, Washington has pretty much said they're not trading their top guys. Cleveland, Orlando, Detroit. That's your pool of teams from the Eastern Conference that are going to be willing to trade anybody. And then if you look at the West, it's like Sacramento, Oklahoma City, the Pelicans, the Rockets, and Minnesota. There's not many teams that are probably going to be trading. I think it's going to be a real slow trade deadline this year.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, I think the Bulls probably stand pat here, and you'll see the moves that happen come off season.
Yep.
Was there anything else you wanted to discuss?
No, I think I have said my piece.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn app, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. It's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. And do you want to plug your new sports blog, Alex?
Yeah, if you want to go on Facebook and look up Alex Pat Sports Chat, you can, or you could go to alexpatsportschat.wordpress.com. You can see that as well. Also, if you want to check out my YouTube channel, it's just Alex Pat. I made a video about reacting to the Andy Dalton. It's a stupid little skit, but if you want to watch it, go ahead.
So thank you guys so much, and until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down, I wanna...